إليها في العالم. إذاعة الجزائر الدولية، صوتنا في العالم.
With Radio Algeria International, you will not miss a single major political or economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
President Abdelmadjid Tebboune has received Slovenian Prime Minister Robert Golob now on an official visit to Algeria. And the 36th Conference of the Arab Interparliamentary Union is pursuing for the second day here in Algiers, with the participants calling for implementing deterrent measures to put an end to the barbaric aggression carried out against the Palestinian people. And Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf has called on the international community to increase pressure to put an end to the Israeli acts of aggression perpetrated in Gaza. And at least 50 Palestinians have been killed and scores of others wounded in airstrikes carried out today at dawn against a camp of displaced people in Rafah. And those were the major developments. Now the full news edition. Good afternoon. Here in Algiers, the head of state Abdelmadjid Tebboune today received the Slovenian Prime Minister Robert Golob now on an official visit to our country. Earlier, the Slovenian Premier, accompanied by Premier Nadia Larbaoui, visited the War Veterans Museum and laid a wreath at the Martyrs Sanctuary. And the 36th Conference of the Arab Interparliamentary Union is pursuing for the second day at the Abdelatif Rahal International Conference here in Algiers, and the details with Miriam Barshi.
Today is marked by the presentation of reports and recommendations of the permanent commissions of the Interparliamentary Arab Union, in addition to the final declaration of the conference. In his opening speech, the Speaker of the National People's Assembly, Ibrahim Boughali, said the conference aims to contribute to the strengthening of Arab intent and to the relaunch of joint action mechanisms to achieve a unified position in favor of the just cause of the Palestinian people.
I hope that this conference will contribute to reinforcing Arab cohesion and activate and promote the Arab common mechanisms to achieve a common practical and tangible position in favor of the Palestinian cause and the legitimate right of the Palestinian people. I also hope that the Arab Parliamentary Union will keep working on investing in the lively energies in our nation to face up to the imposed existential challenges.
He added that Algeria's position in favor of the legitimate right of the Palestinians to recover their rights will remain constant.
Algeria remains committed to her principles and her support to the legitimate right of the Palestinian people to independence. We are convinced that what is happening currently is the outcome of the rejection of the legitimate rights of some parties, in addition to the practices of the Zionist entity, which benefits from support and immunity from all sanctions amid a context marked by an imbalance that hijacks the main role of multilateralism.
Meanwhile, the members of the commissions of the Arab Interparliamentary Union hailed the efforts made by Algeria at the UN Security Council for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. During the meeting, the members of the Arab Interparliamentary Union have praised the recognition by Spain, Norway and Ireland of the State of Palestine, describing it as a bold and historic step that aligns with the principles of international law. The participating Arab officials also called for speeding up the implementation of deterrent measures to put an end to the barbaric aggression carried out against the Palestinian people. Meanwhile, the Palestine Commission of the Arab Interparliamentary Union called during the conference for mobilizing regional and international support for the arrest warrants to be issued by the International Criminal Court against Israeli war criminals, and called for suing them for genocidal crimes in Palestine. During the meeting, Algeria's representative within the Commission, MP Mohamed Yazid Ben Hamouda, presented 3 proposals adopted unanimously by the Commission, highlighting Algeria's efforts in favor of the Palestinian cause, particularly within the UN Security Council. He highlighted the need to adhere to the principles of peace based on the two-state solution as a just, comprehensive and definitive solution to the conflict and to the crimes of the Israeli occupation in all occupied Arab territories, including the Syrian Golan and the southern Lebanon.
And Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf has expressed Algeria's unwavering commitment to the objectives of Africa's 2063 agenda. This came in a statement read on his behalf by the Secretary General of the Foreign Ministry, Lounas Maghraman, who chaired the celebrations of the Africa 2024 Day. Mr. Attaf said Algeria has fulfilled its commitments through launching several tangible projects and initiatives, notably her support for development projects in different African brotherly countries via the Algerian Agency for International Cooperation for Solidarity and Development. Among these projects, he cited the Trans-Saharan Gas Pipeline, which will connect Nigeria to Europe via Niger and Algeria. Meanwhile, Mr. Attaf said Algeria is proud of its African belonging and its commitment under the leadership of President Abdelmadjid Tebboune to pursuing the common African effort for progress at all levels in Africa. He added that sustainable development requires a stable and secure environment, stressing that Algeria is committed to the initiatives aimed at finding solutions to African crises.
In line with our conviction that achieving sustainable development requires a stable and secure environment, Algeria has remained committed to these initiatives aimed at finding solutions to crises and at ensuring security to fight against the phenomena of terrorism, violent extremism, and trans-border organized crime in its regional sphere and in all Africa. Despite the achievements made in this field, our path will remain incomplete as long as we did not get rid completely of these phenomena and we did not yet obtain the original objective of the founding fathers, consisting of recovering freedom and ending colonization for all African peoples. We cannot stand today in inaction in the face of the suffering of a brotherly people that are still subjected to colonization in the last African colony, Western Sahara. We are called more than ever before to stand with the Sahrawi people and grant them their right to justice and self-determination. This right is inalienable until we turn the last page of colonial history in our precious continent.
And separately, the Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs received at the ministry's headquarters the former Egyptian Minister of Tourism, Khalid Al-Anani, in his capacity as Egypt's candidate for the position of Director General of UNESCO for the 2025-2029 period. And the chairman of the African Union and president of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Mr. Mohammed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazawani, called for unified efforts to build the Africa of tomorrow inspired by the founding fathers of the African Union. The details with Miriam Barshi.
In an address made via video conference to the participants to the ceremony organized here in Algiers at the Foreign Affairs Ministry to celebrate Africa Day, which coincides with the 61st anniversary of the creation of the African Union AU, Mr. El Ghazouani stressed the efforts of the AU to free the continent from colonization and apartheid, in addition to its contributions to the peaceful settlement of several border conflicts. In this respect, he called to invest in education to enable all young Africans to contribute to Africa's development, stressing the importance of supporting the education system, promoting innovation and research, and creating employment opportunities for young people. The chairman of the AU stressed that within the framework of the African Agenda 2063, achieving an integrated, prosperous and secure Africa requires the proposal of basic initiatives such as the new Partnership for Africa's Development, NEPAD, and the African Continental Free Trade Area. He added that regional peace and security are prerequisites for sustainable development. We must step up our efforts to fight terrorism and armed conflicts in order to promote political stability.
We are facing global challenges that require our collective attention and action. Regional peace and security are prerequisites for sustainable development. We must set up our efforts to fight terrorism and armed conflicts in order to promote political stability. Human rights, the protection of the environment and the fight against climate change are also at the heart of our joint action. Food sovereignty is another essential pillar. We must work to guarantee that every African has access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food. This goes through supporting agriculture, innovation and resilience in the face of climate crisis. At the international level, we must advocate a reform of the world governance, both on the political and financial plans. Our voice must be heard in international institutions.
That was the chairman of the African Union and president of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, Mr. Mohamed Ould Sheikh Al Ghazouani.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. And the president of the Independent National Electoral Authority, Mohamed Sharfi, has said during a meeting in the eastern province of Annaba that setting up an organizational conditions aligned with international standards for the next election on September 7th constitutes an additional guarantee of the integrity and credibility of the elections.
جاء الدستور 2020 كرس للسلطة المستقلة للانتخابات.
The 2020 Constitution enshrined the Independent Authority for Elections as the main axis in the peaceful political alternation. The gain could be effective only if the citizen gives a real value to the elections by participating in the process. The most important thing above all is to give value to the elections as a means of giving legitimacy to the Algerian governance in order to let you contribute to the peaceful alternation.
And during his visit to Annaba, Mr. Sharfi inaugurated in the city centre the new headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Authority before taking stock of the preparations now underway for the next forthcoming. And the outcome of the fifth meeting of the joint Algerian-French Commission History and Memory will be presented today in Algiers. The outcome of the so-called History and Memory will be presented by Algerian-French Joint Commission during a press conference to take place at the headquarters of the National Archive Centre, during which the conclusions and results will be presented. And the Foreign Affairs Minister Ahmad Attaf has called on the international community to keep and even to increase pressure to put an end to the Israeli acts of aggression perpetrated in Gaza and to allow the State of Palestine to join the UN as a full member. Addressing a Euro-Mediterranean meeting held in Brussels, he said that the momentum resulting from the Palestinian state's recognition by some countries constituted a progress that was achieved thanks to the efforts made to enable Palestine to become a fully fledged member of the UN. He urged all those who supported the initiative at the General Assembly to spare no effort to help promote the conditions for lasting peace in the region.
We hope that the overwhelming majority that has supported this move in the General Assembly will this time have the Security Council take the right decision towards preserving the two-state solution and promoting the much-needed conditions for lasting peace and stability in the Middle East.
And the foreign minister stressed that the recent commitment of the international jurisdictions concerning the Palestinian people contributed alike all political, diplomatic or legal actions to pressurize the occupying power into abandoning its miscalculations. Among these, he went on to say the occupying power's belief that it can indefinitely defy or dictate to the international community the conflict settlement conditions or impose the illusion of enforcing a lasting peace in the Middle East without a Palestinian state. The diplomacy chief made it clear that the setting up of a Palestinian state has been a very important condition to achieve a fair and sustainable peace in the region.
From our own perspective, and as a follow-up to the resolution adopted recently by the General Assembly on the state of Palestine, admission within the UN, Algeria in close coordination with all interested and concerned parties, will reconsider resubmitting to the consideration of the Security Council this matter of full membership of the State of Palestine.
Let's recall that the Foreign Affairs Minister Ahmed Attaf has been entrusted by President Tebboune with taking part in Brussels in the European Mediterranean Ministerial meeting on the Palestinian issue. It followed the meeting's first edition held last April in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, in the presence of representatives of a group of Arab and parliamentary or European countries. The meeting was part of joint diplomatic efforts aimed at promoting the two-state solution to settle the Israeli-Palestinian issue and to gain more support to the Palestinian state's recognition. You still listen to Radio Algeria International, and as we said in our headlines, at least 50 Palestinians have been killed and scores of others wounded in airstrikes carried out today at dawn against a camp of displaced in the western sector of Rafah. Palestinian sources stress that several bodies were burned to death in the fire that devastated an UNRWA-run camp sheltering displaced in the northwestern part of Rafah. The Israeli attack triggered off many reactions, notably by the EU diplomacy chief Josep Borrell, who recalled that the decisions taken by the International Court of Justice, ICJ, were binding, while admitting that there is a dilemma on how the international community could, by constraint, impose the implementation of the court's ruling. The ICJ's ruling issued last week ordered the Israeli authorities to immediately stop the offensive on Rafah and to reopen the crossing points to allow in aid to Gaza. The attack was also condemned by the Palestinian Hamas movement's representative here in Algiers, Youssef Hamdan, who described it as heinous crime against civilians.
What
was done by the criminal Zionistic occupation is a hideous massacre against the displaced people in camps in the southern part of Rafah. It's an awful war crime in an area populated with hundreds of thousands of displaced people. The Israeli occupation declared it earlier as a safe zone, but then this crime resulted in the murder of thousands of citizens, with the majority being women and children, in a blatant challenge and disrespect of the International Court of Justice. We hold the United States administration and President Biden personally responsible of the camp's massacre in Rafah, with the Zionist entity wouldn't have committed unless it was given the go-ahead of the United States to invade Rafah despite its overpopulation with displaced citizens.
And there was a statement of Youssef Hamdan, Hamas representative here in Algiers. And back to national news. The news agency, Algeria Press Service, has signed here in Algiers a cooperation agreement with the Mauritanian news agency to exchange information content. The two parties agreed on exchanging information regarding events taking place in their respective countries to strengthen cooperation and coordination in fighting fake news and consolidating reliable information. Meanwhile, and the Minister of Health, Abdelhak Saihi, has called in Geneva, Switzerland, for strengthening cooperation between Arab states to promote the joint Arab action in the field of health. In a speech made on the occasion of the 60th session of the Council of Arab Ministers of Health, Mr. Saihi hailed the active participation of Arab Ministers of Health to the session held outside the 77th World Health Assembly. The minister said that the session aimed to discuss health issues which interest Arab countries and to complete what they started during the last meeting held in Algeria following the recommendations of the Consultative Technical Committee of the Assembly and the Executive Board, which aims at strengthening the joint Arab action in the field of health to deal with any health or social pressure or suffering on the Arab peoples. You still listen to Radio Algeria International, 14 hours, 48 minutes, Algiers time, and that's it for our news bulletin. I invite you now to listen to a program devoted to development of mines here in Algeria, and the program is compiled and presented by Mohamed Khatel.
Algeria's strategic projects continue to be at the heart of the country's high authorities.